What's up, Pod Pals? It's your buddy Adam, and you are listening to Podcasting Business School. It's the show where I teach podcasters how to love their show like a hobby and build it like a business. And today I've got a very special interview episode. And for those of you that have been listening for 500 plus episodes or around 500-ish episodes, you know that this is a rare occurrence. I don't have people on very often because I have so many things to say. I'm very selfish with my show. But when I bring somebody on, you know that it's like the real deal. Like it's something that it's a conversation that you need to be paying attention to because I'm bringing them on for a very specific reason. Today, we're going to be chatting about some online business tips for creating and selling high ticket and luxury offers. My pod pal, Kristin Sweeting from the Dangerous Creatives podcast is here with us today. Kristin, welcome to the show.
Hey Adam, I'm so excited to be here. I'm such a big fan of your show, so it's special to get to talk to your audience too.
Well, I'm excited for this conversation. You and I have worked together. We were fast pod pals. We check in a lot, and like you got so many cool things going on with your business. And I love bringing business building and online business building experts like yourself onto the show to explore new ideas that I don't have personal experience with. Like I don't have these high ticket offers. I have high ticket ish. I'm like dipping my toe in that water. But like you're doing some really neat stuff, and you've been able to really almost solely focus on the high ticket where, you know, Kristin isn't out there going pushing a $9 product or anything like that. She's got really high end, awesome, hugely deliverable stuff that she over delivers on, I guess I should say. So, Kristin, I want to unpack the story of going from kind of that photographer business into bringing that into the online space. There's always an interesting story from going like brick and mortar in person to now I'm online and I can influence people all across the world. So unpack that story for us a little bit to start off.
Yeah, totally. So I feel like, in some ways I accidentally ended up in the online space, but it's been so fun to be here. Like you said, I started as a photographer and built a business around shooting weddings and commercial work and always had a heart for traveling and really like digging in deep with people. I never felt like I could be a high volume business, even in my service business, because I was like, I want to, I want to know all about you. I want to show up and feel like we've been friends for your whole life and that there's someone really meaningful with you on your wedding day. And so when I started doing mentoring and consulting and things like that too, it felt like that kind of naturally moved that direction of working deeply with people and kind of diving into their business. And every time I've tried to do something different, it never really felt aligned. And so now we kind of have this big offer suite for photographers and creatives and people that are expanding their business in cool ways too. And a lot of it is with high ticket offers, which happy to go into details with, but we do international trips and retreats, and we also do high ticket coaching and high ticket masterminds.
Yeah. And the results you kick out in your community, like they are so plugged in. And that's something that I focus in a lot with my pod pals and building the pod pals community and like really being somebody that's accessible, boots on the ground. I feel like that's a way that we can stand out as independent podcasters and people that don't have giant teams and all this. Like if there's so many great marketers out there, then it's almost like a overpromise, underdeliver, where you're thinking you're going to get to work with that person, and then you don't get to work with that person. You're working with one of their team members or something like that. So let's talk about community building a little bit. I love the way that you've done it. You've got just these people that are just begging you for, like when we were working together, I was doing some consulting with you and like, my people want this thing and they're just asking for like, you know what they want. So let's kind of reverse engineer that a little bit. How did you start building that type of a community? What kind of efforts did you put in to build that type of a group that really is going to communicate to you what they actually want so you can build it for them?
Yeah, totally. A lot of it has been trial and error, and I feel like you do so much of this too. Like when we got to work together and you were just like, yeah, it's me. I'm here to help you. I came to you at a time where I was so frustrated with my podcast and like getting to dive in with people. So at the very beginning, I just offered mentor sessions here and there, one off little like pick my brain kind of things. With photography, one of the things I did differently at the beginning was shot film. And so a lot of people wanted to learn how to shoot film. And that was something I could teach in a few hours, or at least give the intro to, and, started pulling together shoots for people. And I've always done a lot of asking questions of my audience too, because I do think there is something where when we're co-creating with our audience, at least for me and a lot of the people I work with, like if you're like, Kristin, do you know this thing that is really hard for me is I feel really lonely in my business, or I really wish that I could travel, but my partner doesn't has a full-time job, or I want to shoot film and be so excited about my work, but I don't know where to start. It like sparks something in me that gives me so much motivation to create something. Where I'm sure a lot of people have the experience of like, I need to make this online course because I saw someone tell me I need to do it. And you
Right.
build out this whole thing and you record all the modules and you invested all the software and then you launch it out to your audience and like it's really hard to sell it or no one buys it and it can be like so demoralizing. Did you ever have that experience? I definitely have with an online
Like
course.
I call it my Kajabi graveyard of all the courses that I made. Kristin, I was trying to sell directly off my podcast an online course that I built out like 6 episodes in. I've never done a podcast ever. I have no idea what I'm doing. 6 episodes. I'm like, and come and do this course. I filmed 6 months of videos in advance and no one bought it. And it was terrible. Yes. So I'm a
I've
great
had
example.
I've had similar things happen, or I think it was back in maybe 2017 when I had a coach that was like, you need to make an online course. And I was excited, but also, didn't really know where to start, put all this effort into a course. And I feel like this is helpful for people to hear because like I made this course, I launched it, I had a few sales. I got great results with it. I even did like a beta group that helped me make it. But like for 6 years, struggled to launch this course. Every time it was hard, every time it wasn't quite right. And like it was pulling teeth to get 5 people in it or whatever. And then I would offer a higher ticket thing and it would sell out, or it would, like there's a retreat that I just did a retreat in Italy, and there was 6 people that went, and they came back and they're like, can we do one in Greece? And they're selling the tickets for me for a high ticket retreat to go to Greece, because it's like when you kind of find that place where your audience really is craving something and you're able to meet the need, and then you can kind of work together to make it magic. Like, well, what do you want to make sure is part of it? What do you want to make sure is part of it? People feel really seen and excited, and like we get to make the dream scenario together. So it's taken me 6 years to figure out really how to make money off of that course that I made that long ago. But in the meantime, I have been doing these higher ticket things that have been really fulfilling for me, produce awesome results for our clients, and just like are so, I don't know, except for it's not obviously not magic, but that co-creative spirit is so fun. And it takes some of the pressure off of you as the course creator because someone is constantly telling you how to make it better and how to serve them better. And you don't have to kind of sit back and wonder.
So I want to make 2 mental notes. One, we're going to put a pin in that word co-creation because I feel like that is the key to this whole thing. And the other thing is you created that course, that program, 6 years ago, couldn't figure out how to sell it for 6 years, but now it's selling. So I think a lot of us assume that it was the wrong course, and it may very well be. But a lot of times it's that bridge between the thing that you created and the person that needs it. And we aren't doing that middle part of connecting the dots correctly. We're either trying to sell when we should be going, hey, let's do a discovery call and let's talk about if this is the right offer, or, doing a beta group or doing some sort of free challenge to warm them up and then go into the course. So I just want to make a note of that. Like I'm making physical notes and mental notes as we go along here. But um, so let's kind of marry those two ideas together with the co-creation. Let's dive into how you did that. Like, what are you talking to these people via email? Are you like asking them for feedback? Are you forming little beta groups? Are you doing surveys? Are you on social media talking to people? Like, how are you actually connecting and co-creating together like this?
Yeah. So I've done a lot of the things you mentioned. The first with that course, I did have a beta group that went through it with me and tested it and helped me kind of create it. And then I think it's so challenging for us to ask for feedback, but paying attention to where people drop off, paying attention to where people are thriving. And then another hard thing is sometimes you have to start putting the pieces together of people don't need a $100 course. Like what the thing is really having someone walk through it with them. So, I kept trying to force this one thing that wasn't quite what people needed. Um, Also, I think polling in Instagram stories is so powerful. I'll give people options constantly of, hey, I'll soft launch things all the time. Hey, I'm thinking about this trip. Here's some options. Where would you want to go? What would you want to do as part of it? Would you want it to be only photographers? Would you want it to be all creatives? I'm always kind of pushing my audience to see if there's anything new. Like I had a client of mine who goes, Kristen, you should do one for couples. I'm like, well, if you find a couple couples or if we find some couples, that's not really part of my audience right now, but like I'm fine to push it and expand it if you can help me. And so that's kind of what I do now is I do a lot of polling on Instagram. I've done surveys a couple times a year, like, hey, here's some things I'm wondering. You've been listening to the podcast, you've been hanging out with me on Instagram for years, like what's up? What can I do to serve you, to help you? And then I pay a lot of attention to what happens easily and what seems like it's really challenging and get the feedback on the back end of those things. And there's usually data in those flops. Like, I mean, I'm 10 years into online business stuff, mentoring stuff, and still I'll have a launch that flops. And those to me are so interesting because I'm like, there's so much material here for me to inform the rest of my launches.
Yeah, you have so many golden nuggets here, Chris. It's so like, and it's like you're replaying my own online business history. I think a lot of us go through these growing pains, but not a lot of us share these growing pains. And so we beat ourselves up and go, oh, why is everybody else doing so great based off of what I see off Instagram and their millions of dollars of sales, but they don't really share the stories of like, yeah, this is my 12th attempt at this particular type of offer. And I finally figured it out.
Oh my
So
gosh. Well, yeah, it can be so discouraging and it can be expensive because we're like, the problem is I need to pay for Facebook ads. And like most of the time that's not the problem. Please save your money on Facebook ads. It's like effective once you have something that's really working well, but I've definitely done that too, where I'm like, let's put a few thousand in Facebook ads and see if that changes it. And until something's working really well, I found that, you know, there's like a messaging piece off or a sales call piece off. Um, but I had the online course and then kind of saw the idea of a mastermind. And so this one year I just put out to my audience, I was like, would anyone want a mastermind? I think there was some luck. I think there was some timing luck. And I had 5 to 6 people immediately say yes. And we did a really like stripped down, bare bones mastermind for that first year. And when you're in there working with your community, when you're seeing what's hard, you're seeing where the energy slumps, you're seeing them get a big win and then get discouraged the next day, like and I just take note of all of that and be like, is there something that we can do to help them get over that hump? So each year the mastermind has gotten more features to it, more support to it, more like we now offer implementation as part of our coaching programs because I realized like, okay, I'm telling you to start your email list, but you're not, we're not doing it because it's more than just the knowledge. There's a there's an implementation block there too. And so started being like, you get to borrow my VA, you get to borrow my sales team, you get to borrow my pitching templates. Like we'll pitch you for things. And all of that just has evolved over, I guess it's been 5 years of running high ticket programs now. Because I think it can be easy to, when you start getting some success, to see the dollar signs and to be like, ooh, this is great. Let's just focus on that instead of like, how can we continue to, as our business grows, help our clients' business grow? Because when you're always growing in tandem with where they're growing, you will never be out of business. Like if I'm constantly helping my client up level, they'll why would they not keep coming back? It doesn't make sense not to, because they're seeing the return on the investment. And so instead of thinking like, how do I scale this? How do I get a million clients? I was like, how do I help these 10 clients 10x their results? And then you just have that, like, you have that word of mouth. Um, it's kind of just this circle of good energy, because they tell their friends, they keep hiring you, they keep thriving, and it just is really this beautiful ecosystem where we're continuing to see people come back. And so it's really fulfilling as a creator and as a coach and as a
Heck yeah.
podcaster to see it do that too.
And everybody that listens to my show knows that I'm a huge fan of simplification and simplified business models, and we don't need to have 49 different offers at all these different price points. Like you and I even had that conversation when I was consulting a little bit. Like, I think I need some at this price point. I'm like, why? You're freaking killing it at the high. Like, I wish I had two offers and that's all I had to worry about. Like, simplified is better, but we all fall victim to that. Maybe I need this new thing. Maybe I need this bright, shiny new object.
Yeah.
But I love how focused you are on that mastermind group and their journey. And instead of going, I need a new offer, you go, I need a new level to serve them at that next level that they're going to, that they're graduating into. And you keep coming up with that. And like you said, you're peeling back the different layers of what they need and adding bells and whistles to support them. And I just think that's so smart. And more of us need to be doing that, myself included. Instead of going next offer, we go next thing added to a offer that's already working to make it even better. And then we can up level our prices. We get those referrals, those testimonials, like you talked about, and everything. Everybody out there that has a million ideas like me, just sit back and think, what if you had one, two, maybe three offers that were all working really, really well, and you didn't have to create something new every 3 months? Just put yourself in that mindset, and let's see how that sits with you. Um, Now,
Yeah.
go ahead.
And I was gonna say, and like not creating for an invisible client. Like get that one
Yes.
person in your brain. There's always been one or two people for me where I'm like, what does this person need? And creating from that space, because then it is much more service oriented and really pinpointed on who your ideal client is, even if you're not 100% sure who it is, but you loved working with that one person. That can be such a great place to jump off of and get like good momentum there.
Well said. All right, now I want to unpack your mastermind offer just a little bit. So I always kind of getting the X-ray machine out and going, all right, let's see the bones of this offer and how it's evolved and things like that. So would you say like your mastermind is still kind of your go-to online business offer that you feature?
Yeah, well, and it has expanded some with you helping me break out my client journey too, and seeing the different places that someone is growing. But yeah, mostly I would say most mastermind coaching is kind of my main education offer. And then there's also, we have a membership now which evolved after the mastermind did.
Yeah. Okay. So with the mastermind, can you talk about price point, like what's involved with it? And let's maybe start there and then we'll kind of unpack after that.
Yeah. So right now, we have two masterminds. One is for a person at a certain place in their journey, which is over 100K in revenue, and it's one-on-one coaching with me, and there's a group component. Because every time I got away from the group component and tried to just do one-on-one coaching, I noticed there was something missing, that like the accountability is so powerful.
Yep.
So the price point is 12,500. It's a 5-month program. And one of the things that I I've I love with pricing is thinking through like value-based pricing versus time, like my how much is my time worth, because who knows what our time is worth,
Good point.
and who am I to say like this is what my time is worth? And it's more like what can I pretty confidently say I can help someone do? So at this point in coaching, I feel so confident to be able to help someone book a $12,000 photography package, either with a wedding or commercial work or some kind of photo project or coaching project that's that amount. And so I can really confidently ask for that price because I in one booking, I'm helping them, pay back their investment, which just feels good to me. That feels like in alignment with my integrity, and I feel so sure I can help people do that. So that's the pricing, and it's a weekly group call, a monthly one-on-one call with me, and then they also have access to my team, kind of like I mentioned before. They get to borrow my VA a few hours a month and my sales team a few hours a month, so that we're kind of like doing things with them, not just them on their own.
Okay. And I want to kind of run that highlighter over the price point, and then that goal for you, like, which I love, is, hey, if you close, I'm very, very, very confident that I'm gonna teach you how to close new clients, and when you close that first client, you've paid for this service. And I love that type of just imagery and putting it out there and going like, listen, this is what we're going to do. And then you list like testimonials of people doing that and all that. Like, this makes this a very easy to say yes to sort of an opportunity. So I love that. I love that a lot. So can you unpack how this offer started to be sold? Like, you had reached out and you kind of got you circled the wagons a little bit and said, hey, who wants to do this thing? And then it started to happen. Then, like, and so let's compare that to how people are coming into it now. Are they discovering you online and they're doing a discovery call? Like, what's the passive brand enthusiast to new client journey? What does that look like for you right now?
Yeah. Right now, I would say a lot of people do listen to my podcast, and I kind of encourage them to. I'm like, hey, a coach is a really personal thing to hire. If you listen to my podcast and you don't like me, you're probably not going to like coaching with me. So the podcast is, a lot of times people will be there until they're ready for coaching. Um, I do have a client journey that people can grow through, of they're in this program until they hit this number, and they're in this program until they hit this number. But a lot of times it's someone has met me in an event, maybe that I was speaking at, or knows of me from Instagram, or has listened to the podcast. So I would say it's probably like an Instagram discover, then a few months listening to the podcast, and then applying for the high ticket mastermind. Because someone's either at that place, I have an income threshold for that program. So it's like they're either at that place or they aren't. So either they have to grow into it, or they're ready and they just need to make sure I'm the right fit for them. So we do a sales call. The first few years I launched the mastermind, it was a personal invite and a sales call. And usually was with people that I had mentored or known or built community with online for a few years. And I was like, hey, you would probably be a really good fit for this. And honestly, 10 years into this, I still do a lot of personal inviting to things, because I think, like, I know who might be a good fit for it. I know who I like to work with, and I spend a lot of time getting to know people on Instagram or that listen to our podcast. And so I usually have a pretty good idea of who some people could be that might enjoy a study abroad trip or might enjoy coaching. And so I still do a lot of personal inviting.
Okay. I'm glad that you paused right there, because I don't want to miss this point. So many people I talk to, possibly myself included, have used the word like sales as like a curse word. Like we don't like the word sales. We don't like feeling salesy. We don't like even recruiting. Like, ugh, I don't want to do that. That all feels pushy and yucky. Personal inviting. This sounds so nice and just gentle and like making friends. Let's talk about this a little bit because I feel like this is something that my
Yeah.
audience needs to hear. So when you say you personal inviting, I'm out there just, putting an invitation out. What does that look like? And how does that differ in your mind from I'm going out looking for a sale?
Um, I'm I mean, I think the best, sales process is one that feels good to both people. I think it gets a bad rap because of the cold DMs that or the cold emails that
Yeah.
you and I both get. I mean, we both get them like what, 10 a day? Just,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
and no fault. Like I cold pitch things sometimes too, but like when you can kind of tell that they've applied for a few things or they are clicking on a bunch of your emails or they're constantly telling you how much they love your podcast, like there's some clues that make it easier to do a personal invitation where you're like, I'm not just asking someone to marry me out of the blue. Like they've been flirting with me for a while. I do a lot of like comparing business to dating. I'm like, I know they want to hang, like, and how good does it feel when someone that we want to hang with also wants to hang with us? And so I think like personal inviting is so powerful, not only because it's like I know you see me, but I also see you, and I think we would be a good fit to work together. And there's no pressure to it. So just really tactical. I have a like slide into your DMs kind of method where it's just like, "Hey, have you been thinking about this? I'd love to talk to you about it if you have been." It doesn't feel slimy to me. I don't think it feels slimy to other people because they respond well to it. And it's very effective too if you're kind of like keeping a good pulse on who's paying attention to stuff you're doing.
Yeah. Now, are you voice DMing or is that like a text DM, like through Instagram? Any particular method you like there?
I usually just send a text. I also think of it as kind of like asking consent to pitch. Like we also pitch our clients. So, like, we have photographers and other podcasters that we pitch to people. And I just think if you can send a DM that's like, hey, like a direct message on Instagram, hey, we love what you guys are doing. I have someone that I've been thinking of for you, would it be okay if we sent you, more information, more of a pitch? And I do it with my own photography too. Like, I love your hotel. Like, could I send you a pitch about what it would look like to work together when I come and stay or whatever? So it's like a little asking permission to be sold to. And then I feel like if someone gives you the green light, then like, sell your service, babe. Like, you're great at what you do, and you have to be the one that believes in it first. And when you're excited about what you're selling, when you're like, "Oh my gosh, we have this amazing program. The people in it are so baller. Like, you would be great in it." It feels good to be brought into something like that than to be like, "Oh my gosh, I like, I hope you buy my thing." There's just like such a different energy. And you're really good at it too, Adam. Like it feels good to be sold to by you because it feels collaborative. It feels like you're just inviting someone to the party. And I think that that's what it should feel like.
Yeah. I call it friending people into submission. I just dump friendship until they submit to my will. Um, it's like Sex Panther cologne. 57% of the time, it works every time. Um,
Is that from
but
Anchorman?
yes, but now let's do another movie moment. Like I feel like a lot of people feel like Jim Carrey's character in Dumb and Dumber, Lloyd Christmas, when they're like, "What are the chances of a guy like you and a girl like me getting together, getting some dinner sometime?" Uh, so
Is
yeah,
that what you feel like when you slide into people's DMs? You're like,
yes,
hey,
yeah, yeah. So
would your podcast want to hang out with my podcast?
yeah, yeah. What are the chances that your podcast and my podcast would like to get some dinner sometime? No. So okay. I love this. I love this invite method. And I think that a lot of us, if we can just get that framework out there of like we're developing real relationships with people and people are connecting, they're hanging around, they DM back and forth. Like I've got something new I'm working on. I've got probably 5 to 10 people that I'm like, these people, they've been to Pod Pals, they've done podcast audits, they've been sniffing around the periphery of my brand ecosystem. I know they need this. I'm going to hit them up with the Kristin Sweeting method, and I'm going to slide into those DMs, and I won't act like Lloyd Christmas, and we're just going to, just invite them to the party. So yeah, I think this is something that we can all practice. I mean, honestly, I would challenge my audience. Like you all probably have one person that's like that, that's commenting about your show, that's been kind of a super fan. Let's ask for permission to invite them to something. I think that would be a good challenge for everybody out there. So, um,
Totally. That's a great
yes,
challenge. Or even being like, you think of that person and you can make something for that person. It doesn't have to be a pre-recorded thing. It can be like, it can be a service, it could be a high touch experience. Like with the photography side of my business, I have a high touch branding experience where I pull up people's astrology. It's so fun. I pull up your astrology. We pick where we should go for your shoot. We did one in Mexico with a client and we did one in Iceland with a client, and I planned this whole board and I shop for them, and we brand them in the most fun way. It's like a vacation and a retreat and a private chef and a photo shoot, and it's like nothing else. But we created it for this one client, and then another client wants it, and then another client wants it. So, I think don't be afraid to make something for a person too, especially if you love that person and love working with them. Like, why not?
so cool. Um, we got to talk about the destination events, like the luxury destination events. How did you get this idea? Kind of unpack the idea a little bit, and then talk about again recruiting people for this and pricing it out, because I think this is something that I think all online business owners like think that is going to happen eventually. It's like, I'm going to host a workshop in Hawaii, and it's going to be a business expense, and I'm going to make all this money while I'm on the beaches. But you're actually out there doing this. So let's unpack this a little bit. Where shall we start with the luxury offer?
Well, I can tell all the mistakes I've made from doing
Let's start
luxury
there.
retreats.
Good idea.
No, this was the first retreat I ever launched was an international 2-week long retreat. I didn't do a 1-day in-person retreat in the States or near my house. Like, I just went all in. I think I'm kind of an all-in kind of person. And so I did 2 weeks back to back, 2 different countries. Again, I did a lot of personal inviting to them. I know this is, and I had like a baby. I don't know what I was thinking, Adam, but we did this 2-week trip, and it was inspired by study abroad because I did a study abroad. Did you study abroad in college, or did you ever have a chance to
No,
travel
I
different?
rarely
Yeah.
leave the Midwest, and it shows.
Adam is gonna get a DM from me later inviting him to one of our trips. Hey Adam, I have this trip. I feel like you would be perfect for it. You should come. Um, so the first one was a little bit wild because I put all this pressure on myself to make it perfect. Also, I think I really absorbed a lot of negative energy from the coaching industry of people run these awful workshops or people are doing that, and so I was like, I have to make it so good. And it was so fun. But I think the first one I made money on, the second one I lost money on, and I was so discouraged. And just like now I tell people it's so normal to not make a lot of money on your first retreat. You're working things out, you're figuring out what things cost. It's totally okay. But again, slide into 3 people's DMs and have 3 people say yes before you invest a lot of money in it. That is one of my tricks that's helped me not like go into so much debt. Is before I book these beautiful villas or before I have a lot of my own money on the line, I have people that are invested in it with me, have those like early adopters. Um,
Great call on that. That reminds me, like, um, I've been talking kind of on and off on the show about my podcast growth coach certification. So I created the certification. I'm trying to kind of level up the podcasting industry. There's a lot of coaches out there, but not a lot of standardization within the coaching. You never know what you're going to get. So I'm creating that standardization. Easiest offer I ever sold, because I talked to my audience. There's a whole bunch of service providers in the podcasting space, editors, producers, social media people. I was like, hey, what do you need? I'm thinking about creating this thing. And I had 10 people that were like, this is a hell yes for me. Just when you set the date, we're ready to go. And that's so same thing with what you're talking about. I'm like, okay, before I spend 3 months creating all this stuff and doing it, I had people ready to rock. So that's a huge, huge note to make, Pod Pals. Really pay attention to that because that's worked for me as well.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned that, and I do think that there's some kind of spiritual component to business. I don't know exactly what it is, but sometimes something just isn't the right timing. Nothing you did wrong. It's nothing that like it's not like people hate you. You put something out there, no one bought it. It's not that you don't have a connection with your audience. Literally, sometimes it's I picked the wrong date or there was something in the moon cycle. I don't know. Like sometimes there's just something outside of my control that something doesn't work. And I usually change something and relaunch it later or try it again in a different way. So all that to be said with study abroads, now they're about a week long. They're always in a different country. We've done one in Portugal, Switzerland, Iceland, France, Mexico. Where else? Greece. So we've gone all over. We just were in Italy and about to do one in Turkey. So they're kind of with this idea of, hey, let's go somewhere together. You're out of your comfort zone. Inspiration is always like at 1,000,000%. Be with a small group of other creatives that also care about building a really intentional life. And let's just like mastermind as we're doing these amazing experiences together. So that's what they've turned into. And they're so, so fun. And I'm so glad I didn't quit after my first one lost me money because I would have lost out on a lot of beautiful experiences and um, a lot of fun people that I've met through them.
And just being the tax nerd that I am, I'm like, this is great. You get to travel and it's all like business expense, as you travel to these places and get to do interesting things. So what with like the latest iteration of the retreat, like how many people are you limiting the attendance? What's the price point look like? Because I know people will be interested in exactly those specific numbers. Because I'll get the DMs on that. Like, how many people is she taking in this thing, and how much is she charging? So let's unpack that a little
Yeah.
bit.
Yeah, I so the Italy one included was 4 photographers and included shoots, which makes it more complicated in general. So I was hiring models and things like that. So that one was 7,500 for the week, and it include like basically once you're there, it includes everything. It includes the lodging, it includes the in-country travel, most of the meals, the experiences. I was building surprises. So we'll usually take some kind of boat ride or do a cooking class, or we're gonna do a hot air balloon tour when we're in Turkey. Like there's something beautiful and really inspiring. And sorry about my AirPods. Something beautiful and inspiring, and yeah, and so that's the price point. We do ones for 5,000 too if it's not like including shoots and things like that.
And do
And
you
you
do you
asked how many
cap?
people.
Yeah, yeah. Do you cap the attendance, or like, is there, a certain amount of? Is it like, are you going on the podcast going? There's only 3 spots left. Like, how are we creating that fear of missing out? I guess.
Yeah, they're about 6 to 8 people each. I do a early bird. This is a way that I think has been really effective for me with an early bird option. Instead of having it be a timed early bird, there's 3 early bird spots. So the first 3 people get a discount and then they're gone. And then the rest of it's full price. So, and I do a really large booking window for them too. That changed post COVID. I think I used to give it a 6-month lead time, and now I launch them a year before the trip.
Interesting.
So it gives people lots of time. They can do payment plans if they want. They can set aside their summer if they want to travel with us next year. But yeah, they're all 6 to 8 people.
So if we've got anybody's brain cooking on this idea, and like, I want to do an out of country retreat, any like pro tips, rookie mistakes to avoid? Any quick thoughts on that?
Yeah. Um, be really clear what you're including and what you're not including. So for example, I think one of the reasons the first trip went over is people were I was kind of unclear about which dinners I was covering as part of the trip. And so if people ordered a bunch of drinks or things like that, that stuff adds up quickly. So kind of being like, here's the meals that we cover, here's the ones you cover. I always build in a $2,000 buffer, and I'm a big fan of Profit First. I'm pretty sure you're a big fan of Profit
Yeah,
First
Mike
too, right?
McAllowitz.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah. Profit First, love that book. But I build in what I'm gonna pay myself at the beginning of the budgeting process.
Oh,
So
so
there's
smart.
it's
Yes.
in there, and, I tell my clients too, I'm like, "Yes, it's great that you get a free trip, but ideally, you're still working really hard, so make sure you're paying yourself first too." And then I kind of do multiple budgets based on how many people come. So if only case scenario 4 people come, is there something that I can change around or that's going to change the budget? And then kind of redo the budget for if 6 people come, 8 people come. Um, so that's a big deal. The place that you stay is a big deal. Um, and I'm trying to think what else. Oh, well, it gets more expensive if you're in a remote place and you have to have transportation everywhere. So we found the easiest ones logistically are in a city where you can walk and you can pretty easily get around on your own and not having to transport your whole group everywhere.
Beautiful advice. Okay. Final big question. When are you doing one of these in the Midwest? Like Ohio, maybe you know, Illinois. I don't know. I'm just planting that seed. Let's let that marinate.
Let's go. Let's go.
Let's put a pin in that one. The Midwest Luxury Tour by Kristin Sweeting.
I mean, the Midwest is great. I also live in the Midwest. I'm like, let's do it, Adam.
You're in Tennessee. That's not Midwest. That's like
That's
beautiful
Midwest.
and that's basically the South. It's not like Ohio and Indiana Midwest. Let's just put it that way.
Okay.
So, okay. I want to make sure you get the opportunity to showcase your podcast, your website. If you want to connect with you, if they're interested in joining your mastermind, maybe doing one of these luxury retreat events, where do they need to go and connect with you?
Well, before I do that, I want to shout out Adam because I did hire him for coaching from listening to his podcast. I was so frustrated with my podcast, and now I have so much fun. I've implemented a lot of the things he talks about on here, and people absolutely love the podcast now. And I think we're getting close to 80,000 downloads, Adam, which I'm so excited about. So thank you for all the help and support. And yeah, we have the Dangerous Creatives podcast. If you like talking about life and business, and if you like Adam, you'll probably like our podcast too. We get a little weird. We have a lot of fun. And yeah, everything is on dangerschool.com if you want to check out study abroad trips, or if you are a creative person and want to come hang out with us, we'd love to meet you.
Yeah, and I highly recommend it. Everything Kristin does is really, really high level. She over delivers. She's awesome. So go and check her out. I'll put all the important connection info in the episode notes. Kristin, I'm so proud of you. I admire what you're doing out there. You inspire me, and I know you've inspired my audience today. So thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah. Oh, can I say one more thing?
Of course.
Okay. So early in online business coaching stuff, I was so discouraged because, my Instagram numbers weren't going up. My podcast had 60 downloads or something like that. And I had a really small audience, and focusing on these really intentional, high quality, high ticket things where I could build something for people, even with a really small audience, I was able to build a 6-figure coaching business pretty quickly. You don't have to have huge numbers to make something that's really impactful, not only for your students, but for your own business, for your own life. So if you ever fall into the trap like I did for so many years of just watching the numbers and being so upset that they weren't ticking up and I didn't understand why, just know that you can still build something really amazing and the numbers might come later, and that is totally okay.
Oh, beautiful way to end this. Ended on a high note. Kristin Sweeting, ladies and gentlemen, Pod Pals, appreciate you listening in. Go out and support Kristin's show, Dangerous Creatives. And with that, we're going to send you out into the world, wishing you health, happiness, and many downloads. We will see you next time.